Welcome to this creatively illustrative episode of the Maza's Musings podcast. What do I mean by that exactly? Well, you may not know this, but Western Massachusetts, where this podcast is based out of, is really a hotbed for children's storybook illustrators. And a big part of that is today's guest. It's Rich Michelson from the R. Michelson Gallery, which is located in Northampton, Massachusetts. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about his gallery, a big celebration of illustration that he's having at that gallery coming up in November. And we'll also talk a little bit about the role that this area has played in children's storybook art. Of course, we have a few of the big names that you've probably heard of. Eric Carle, who did the Very Hungry Caterpillar and books like that. We also have, obviously, Dr. Seuss. But this is an area that has actually drawn a large number of illustrators, into this community and into this region, largely because of the efforts of people like Rich Michelson, who really started looking at storybook art as fine art. So it's really fascinating to hear him talk about this, and even things like his own skepticism about this when he first opened his gallery and was working with various artists. So that is our main topic of the week. But of course, before we get into anything else, we have Megan's Joke of the Week. And it's Cuckoo Bananas, as always.
And now it's time for Megan's
Cuckoo Bananas Joke. Tick-tock, cuckoo clock.
Okay. Hello, Megan. Oh, boy. We're already off to a roaring start. Do you have a joke for us?
Yes.
Okay.
But what's roaring mean?
It means we're off to a really good start.
You're being sarcastic, right?
Yes. Yes, I am. All right. So let's hear that joke.
Why isn't there a clock in the library? Tick-tock, cuckoo clock.
I don't know. Why isn't there a clock in the library?
Because it talks too much. Tick-tock, cuckoo clock. Tick-tock, cuckoo clock.
All right.
Cuckoo clock.
All right.
Cat
Let's say good
climbs
night.
up the cuckoo clock. Good night. Good tick-tock. Tick-tock, cuckoo clock. Tick-tock-tock.
TikTok. Thank you, Megan, for another Cuckoo Bananas Joke of the Week. Hey, if you love these jokes or you have jokes of your own that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear them. So feel free to send them to me at mazasmusings@gmail.com, or you can connect with us on social media, and I'll tell you all the ways that you can do that later on in the podcast. But before we get into our main topic, we've got one more thing to talk about in this week's Maza's Mickey Minute, because, of course, when we don't have a main topic that's Disney related, I've got to tie Disney into the podcast somehow every week. And this week, I've got a bone to pick with some of you. So here we go.
Donald, wake up! It's showtime! Don't forget the orchestra!
Ah, there you are. And just in time.
Mom says there's even more magical stuff now.
For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the doors.
Hang on to them hats and glasses, cause this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness. And here we go!
Okay, here we go. This week's Maza's Mickey Minute is actually Star Wars related. And of course, Disney owns Star Wars, as it owns many, many things. But there was some news that came out that has ruffled some feathers. And the ruffling of those feathers has ruffled my feathers, so to speak. And basically, Adam Driver, in a recent interview, said that he and Steven Soderbergh had worked on a script or a pitch for a movie about Ben Solo. I believe it was called The Hunt for Ben Solo. Now, I'm going to preface everything else that I have to say about this with, sign me up. I think that would be great. I think that would be awesome. I think that Adam Driver hit that character out of the park. Steven Soderbergh's a great, film mind. So yeah, I would be all on board with that. And according to this story, they brought it to Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm liked it. And they brought it to the Disney brass, and Bob Iger and company said no. And this whole concept is dead, which is why Adam Driver is able to talk about it now. So I guess the main crux, at least from his point of view and what he's saying, is Iger and company couldn't see how Ben Solo was alive. So this naturally spurred a lot of feelings in the Star Wars community, as basically anything related to Star Wars does with the Star Wars community. But one of the things that I've seen that really, and I've seen in a few different forms, but it's basically the same kind of thing. And it really encapsulates kind of the general message that people have had throughout this is, people kind of criticizing that decision of them saying, we can't see how Ben Solo's alive, and pointing to, Maul returning, or Boba Fett surviving the Sarlacc pit, or Palpatine returning, or even something like Cobb Vanth in the Book of Boba Fett, in an end credits scene shows that he's alive in a bacta tank. I think that, my response to that is pretty simple. Guys, you panned basically all of this. Now, the only thing that I'll say, I don't know what the initial reaction to Maul's return was, because I was late to the party on the Clone Wars. So I can't speak necessarily to that. But all we've heard is people making fun of how these things were done. And how these characters were able to come back and be alive. How many times have I heard, oh, yeah, somehow Palpatine returned? It's just like, it's kind of, you don't need like huge explanations and taking half the movie to explain how that happened to make it work. I mean, I'm not going to go out on a limb here and say that The Rise of Skywalker was at all a great movie. But, the way that people react to these things, and then you're going to say, oh, yeah, Ben Solo, who disappeared, who was like, became one with the Force at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. You're just going to be totally cool with them, bringing him back. And you're just going to be cool with that. It's not like you would say, oh, yeah, that was kind of dumb. He was already absorbed into the Force. Blah, blah, blah. That's the way you guys would have reacted. That's exactly how you guys would have reacted. Because we can't have nice things as Star Wars fans. And it really bothers me. I think that there would have been a chance for this movie, honestly, if not for the reaction of all of these other things, because it doesn't happen the way that the Star Wars fandom wants them to. Okay, anyway, a little bit of a rant, but that's what I have for you for this week's Maza's Mickey Minute. I know, I'm a little flustered. I'm a little on edge. And seriously, planning a vacation can be the exact same way. But it doesn't have to be, because you can use We Do Travel Right. And We Do Travel Right will have you shipping off 2x2 at light speed with their one-on-one service with an agent helping you get everything you need for your trip. Now, of course, you've got that one-on-one service, but you're not on an island with that person because they have a team who is helping them with all of that stuff, including the dining team, which is phenomenal. So you'll have people helping you get those dining reservations, those park tickets, your hotel reservations, and somebody who's going to help you figure out what are the best things that will work for your family on your trip. Taking a minute to take a deep breath, because that's what using We Do Travel Right will also help you do. Take a deep breath. And you know the best part of all of this? Well, you're taking deep breaths and composing yourself as you're getting ready to enjoy your trip. All of their services are free. That's right. You do not pay We Do Travel Right a single penny. That's because whether it's Disney or Universal or cruise lines, by the way, having a great podcast on Disney Cruise Lines next episode, so be sure to listen to that, or all-inclusives, all of those build the use of an agent into their pricing. So you are paying for the agent, whether you're using one or not. So doesn't it just make sense to use the agent? So if you are ready to get your next magical vacation started today, go to wedotravelright.com/Maza. That's wedotravelright.com/MAZA. Fill out the form and someone will get back to you and you can get that trip started.
Now I can't do any more damage around this popsicle stand.
So long, partner.
See you real soon.
All right, so I have a very special guest here with me today. And Richard, I usually start out by letting people introduce themselves and a bit about their work. So if you'd like to kick us off by letting everybody know who you are and where you're from, I will hand it off to you.
You mean people don't already know who I am? Geez, all right. That's pleasure to be on your show, Chris. It's absolute lovely to meet you. My name is Rich Michelson. I am the owner of R. Michelson Galleries in Northampton, and I moved here in '79, so that's how old I am. You can figure things out, and we have been showing a children's book illustration at our gallery since we opened. And I'm pleased to say we are the first gallery in the country to start selling original children's book illustrations on an equal level as fine art. I don't believe there's a difference. The best of the illustrators are as good as the best of the fine artists. I like to remind people that when Michelangelo was painting the Sistine Chapel ceiling, he was basically illustrating a book. So we are having on November 2nd our 36th annual illustration celebration. Everyone who is listening to this is invited. Many of our illustrators and writers fly in from all over the country, all over the world, in fact. And you will meet many, many of your favorite authors and illustrators. If you come and join us, we're happy to see you. It's a bit of a mob scene, but the show will be up through January. So if you can't make it to the opening, which is fun, but hard to see everything, there's just too many people, come back, see it at your leisure. Also go on to our website, rmichelson.com. That's rmichelson.com. And you hit the link that says illustrators, and you'll get a taste of who's going to be there, what we're showing, etc. It is our biggest party of the year. It has been now for 36 years. Like I said, before that, we handled illustration, but we didn't have a great party set up. And beyond that, I am also a writer myself. I'm a poet. I write for adults, for teens, and for children. And this year, I'm particularly happy to have 4 new books coming out, plus a theater piece. So it's been a pretty busy year for me. I thank you that the Reminder did a very nice coverage of my last book, called Next Year in the White House, about President Obama, who hosted the very first Passover Seder in history in the White House. And hopefully we'll get you all to take a look at my next couple of books as well. One came out a couple of weeks ago, and another one is coming out in 2 weeks. So that's that.
All right. So you said 36 years for this celebration, and I'm trying to do the math in my head. There's an anniversary for the gallery in itself coming up. But can you talk about how this event started and how it's turned into like this really special tradition that you have every year?
Sure. So people now, because illustration is so popular around the country, around the world, and because we're the first ones to do it, people are constantly telling me what vision I had and how I was ahead of the curve. Unfortunately, that's not true. It's pure happenstance. I moved here in 1979, and now if you come and visit the gallery, it's gorgeous. We have a beautiful building, 60-foot high ceilings, marble, about 20,000 square feet. But when I first moved here, I decided to open a gallery after selling art reproductions out of the back of my van for 3 years to try to make a living. And Thorne's Marketplace in Northampton was just opening as well. They asked about me maybe having a space, but I couldn't afford one. And they were nice enough to give me a little hallway between 2 stores on the second floor. I actually bought a shower curtain, which I'd pull at the end of the day and put a padlock on to close up. So my first gallery was 8 feet by 16 feet in Thorne's Marketplace. And the very first artist I ever took on was a young man at the time named Barry Mosier. Many people, I hope, in your listening audience and will know the name. Barry has won just about every award possible. He's an amazing artist, a nice guy. When I was moving to the area, I happened to see a couple of his engravings for a small press poetry chapbook, and it mentioned that he was living in the area. I loved the work, so I gave him a call, and I said, I'm opening a gallery. I would like you to be my first artist. Barry was teaching at Williston, Northampton at the time, and we invited me over. We became good friends, and my very first show was Barry Mosier. I added a few more artists as time went on, and it was a few years later that Barry came to me and said, I had the opportunity to illustrate a children's book. What do you think? And I said, Barry, I think that's the absolute worst idea I've ever heard in my life. We are working very hard to make this a serious gallery. I did not grow up with children's books. It was a new world for me. I didn't read. And I said, so what are you going to do? Start doing little watercolors of bunnies? And in fact, Barry said yes. He was offered to illustrate his very first picture book, Jump, The Adventures of Brer Rabbit. At the time, I only had about 5 or 6 artists, and they each had a show every year. So when it came time to show Barry's work, I didn't have a choice. There was nothing else that I could put on my walls. So I hung those little watercolor bunnies. And I'd like to tell you they were an immediate hit, but I don't think we sold any. And but Barry did introduce me to some of his friends at the time, people I didn't know. Eric Carl, who lived in Northampton and had a studio not too far from where the gallery was. Jane Dyer, who was a friend of his, who was a kindergarten teacher at the time. Jane Yolen, one of our great children's book writers, considered by many to be the Hans Christian Andersen of our time. And I started purely because I needed commercial validation to try to sell these bunnies. I started reading some picture books, and by people like Maurice Sendak, Jules Pfeiffer, both of whose careers I would eventually represent. And I realized that the work I was seeing in these books was as good as anything I was seeing on museum walls. And I couldn't believe it. It was a whole world that opened for me. And suddenly I became an acolyte. I started reading these books. I started looking around. I started calling up some illustrators, Tommy DePaulo, Alice Provenson, Maurice Sendak. At the time, there was no market for the work. Most of these people oftentimes didn't even get their work back from the publishers. They were paid, and then the publishers used it to make the books and then threw the stuff out, or had, let some of their employees take them home. But I thought it was great, so I kept trying to show the work. We sold nothing for years. I called museums all over the country. Nobody was interested until one museum that was curated by a fellow named Nick Clark decided to take some pieces to show, including some Leonard Baskin pieces for his children's books. Years later, the Eric Carle Museum would open in our area, and Nick Clark would become their first curator. The Dr. Seuss Museum would open in Springfield. The Norman Rockwell Museum would expand. And little by little, people started appreciating the artwork, taking a look, enjoying it. Now I get queries from museums all over the world to curate shows on picture book illustrations. I can't do all of them. There are too many coming in. And over the years, we have become, I'm happy to say, the premier gallery in the country to get original children's book illustrations. And people come from all over to see work by Mo Willems, Dr. Seuss, and eventually what happened is, because there was no other gallery showing this stuff, and some of these artists started moving to the area. And once one moved, often their friends would move. And it became a critical mass where more and more illustrators started moving here. The other avenues opened up, the ones I just mentioned, and Western Mass became really the center of picture book illustration in the country.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions was, what drew people here? But, this obviously, your work and the work of some others was really the catalyst for it. But one thing that I am curious about, you said little by little people started to come around to this as a true fine art. Mm-hmm. What do you think was the turning point, and what do you think has helped uh, grow this, and helped people now seem to children's storybook art really seems to resonate with people in a way that it didn't previously. And why do you think it's resonating with people now, especially even people who are well out of their childhood years?
Mm-hmm. So a couple of things. One is technology. When I started, the most of the early picture book artists came out of advertising. Eric Carle worked in advertising. That was really the avenue into it. And early on, we did not have the 4-color printing technology that came along later. So when you look at some of the very early picture books, there is no final art. It was done color by color on acetate sheets. The artist had to, use different techniques to be able to envision how it was going to look in the press when it was put together. The colors were often muddy or one color. If you look at a lot of the early, the lions in the field, the early great people like Virginia Lee Burton and, early Alice Robinson, Leo and Diane Dillon. It was only later. So when I first started and looking for now some of the classic books that I came across, there was no such thing as final artwork. And as the procedure changed and the art, and we were able to print in beautiful full color, the artists were able to expand what they were able to do with color and with collage work. And in fact, that ushered in what is known really as the golden age of picture books. And it had to do as well with, again, purely outside forces. You had the baby boom. And people my age who were really one of the first generations that were read where there was actual children's books, as opposed to earlier time where in general there wasn't a whole industry of children's books. Children were considered, little adults, or so as the baby boomers started taking over, and they were read some books in their childhood. Eventually, they grew up to become the doctors, the lawyers, the people, and they started reading to their children, often the books that were important to them as a child. So many of those early classics that they were raised on were then passed along. Ezra Jack Keats, The Snowy Day was all of that grew into really, as I say, a golden age. And then we had a lot of fine artists start, when I first added illustrators to the gallery, my other fine artists were upset with me. Again, for the same reason I was originally upset. They wanted to show among their peers, and this was like lowering the quality of everything. It wasn't considered fine art. So they were generally upset. Now, if the question I get most often from my fine artists is, how do I break into children's books? Can you write something for me? Tell me how it works. The other thing I will say, which will make me feel old, is that I have been fortunate to be in the right place at the right time, because now, with a lot of my younger artists, we've come full circle, and there's no longer, again, something known as a final art piece, because so many of my artists are now working on the computer. And so, when their books come out, I have a book out in 2 weeks. I would love to be able to show the work in my gallery, but there is no final artwork. It was all done on the computer. And that tends to be the medium for the younger artists that are coming in. So it's odd to have traversed that entire movement in the picture book world.
Now, you've mentioned a couple times yourself that you are an author, and how does your work, in putting books together, does that influence the way that you curate the gallery?
Well, I mean, it's so I didn't start out writing children's books. That's a side effect of the gallery. I was a poet. I was writing for adults, and but of course, I started to know many children's book illustrators, like Barry Mosher, Leonard Baskin, who illustrated my first 4 children's books, and again, that was happenstance. But I had a couple of young kids at the time. I was a poet. I happened to be out at having a drink with the person who would become my agent, Jeff Dwyer. I was joking about how my son was afraid of ghosts, and so I put him to bed, and I'd say, calm down, there's no need to be afraid of ghosts, they don't exist, etc. And then as I walked out of the room, I would say, besides, the witches will scare the ghosts away, and I'd slam the door, and of course he'd be scared of witches, and we would continue that routine. And I was joking to Jeff about how I was torturing my poor children. And he said, "Oh, that's great. Write it down. I can sell it." And he called me up and he said, "I sold it. Leonard Baskin is going to illustrate your first book." But for me, Leonard Baskin and Barry Mosher, 2 of my artists, are considered the premier book people and designers in this country. And so I learned at their knee how picture books work, how to design it. I saw how Barry was putting together his books, and he would explain to me while I'm writing things how I need to keep in mind what he's going to do, because it's a collaborative art. So if I had, for instance, in one of the books I did with Barry, somebody opened a photo album and one of the photos fell out and landed on their knee or something. And Barry said, no, it's got to land on the floor, because that allows me to approach the illustration from any angle I want. And I have a lot more options, etc. And I watched Leonard Baskin set up the design of the books, because he did that, and I saw how he integrated the text into the illustrations. So I learned how to do that, and as I worked with more and more illustrators, I got a real sense of it, and it helped certainly in my own career. I still write, I'm still a poet, but I can see things from the angle of the illustrators as well. And many of my illustrators, as they're working on a book in the gallery, they'll ask my opinion, they'll show me things. If they're working on a book of mine, I try not to get involved. It's just, that's the last thing an illustrator wants, because when you're done, it's their book. That's what collaboration is about. They don't need me saying, no, I was wearing a red shirt, not a blue shirt. This doesn't, so I keep my distance.
Now, you've mentioned a couple of things. First off, the interest in storybook art in the first place, and you've mentioned some changes with the technology that have definitely impacted and expanded the medium. But over the decades, have you noticed any changes in style or theme that have there been any trends that you've noticed in that regard? I know that there are some artists that you can look at and say, oh, well, this is this person's work, or
Mhm.
but are there stylistically or thematically shifts from decade to decade or generation to generation?
Definitely. We see that. I mean, just society changes, different ideas become. Certainly early on, um, some of my artists, tended to some of the work tended to have a more fine art finish work. So we had artists like Thomas Locker, who's a great landscape artist in the Hudson River Valley School, and he started illustrating children's books. And it was basically similar paintings, just entered into the children's book. That's how it was, for many people. Again, a lot of the artists came in through advertising, or were fine artists doing somewhat narrative work, and they were then said, "Oh, this would translate nicely to a picture book." There was a certain style that was more prevalent then. I think then you get huge changes. You get somebody like Mo Willems, who basically breaks all the rules with his first book, "Do Not Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus," and Mo came from working on television and doing animations and Sesame Street, et cetera. And he wasn't looking for that fine art polish. In fact, he tells people he can teach you to draw a cartoon in a few seconds, and he does. But he's brilliant. And when his books became popular, then you started seeing more of that kind of cartoon look, which again became the most dominant mode. So things are always changing, as they are in fashion, as they are in in what we read, what we see. I think picture books, I think, is particularly important, especially these days when we live in such a visual society. Children should get what we tend to remember what we see early on. And so it's almost more important for children to have really good artwork than it is for adults, because this is going to, this is going to drive them through their lives, and it's what they're going to remember. And I'm pleased to say that, that we love when parents come in with their kids to the gallery, to look around. It's wonderful. It's exciting to see how the kids get interested in things. Of course, we represent Paddington, which they know from the movies, or Arthur, Mark Brown's Arthur, which they know from the longest running public television show. So they're excited to see the characters they know, Elephant and Piggy, and if you come in to our gallery and park behind, you will see an incredible 4-story mural that we have on the back of the building now, that's only a year old, where many of your favorite characters are depicted on the building. And it's really has, over the years, taken over more and more of the gallery. space to the point where, many people consider us primarily an illustration gallery.
Now, we've talked a little bit about the changes and the shifts and everything, but what is one thing that you are particularly excited about the future of this medium and of this artwork?
Well, I don't know what the future will hold, so I'm a little worried about the future right now, frankly, for all of us, especially for kids. We're seeing unprecedented book bannings that we've not seen previously. We see a great backlash to anything that is out of the mainstream. Picture books were so important to raise a generation of what we call windows and mirrors, giving us a look into other cultures, other lives, but also able to see ourselves, so that if you're a Black American or you're gay or trans, there are picture books for you, so you don't feel on the out of American society. That is changing at a frighteningly fast pace. AI is changing things at an incredible rate. So I don't know. There's the answer. I don't know where it's going. I'm scared for our kids. I'm scared for all of us, frankly.
Well, getting back to the celebration that's going to happen, we'll
Yeah,
get to
let's do
a
a
happier
celebration.
topic.
Let's
The
end
celebration, when somebody comes in, whether they're able to take part in the in the reception, in the big event that's going to happen, or they come into the gallery later to see something in a little bit more of a laid back fashion. What are you hoping that they are able to take away? What do you hope that they experience when they're there, both whether you're adult or children?
Well, I hope that they experience the same joy and excitement of seeing some of the very best artwork, uh, just as they would if they went into a museum. I think that that there's something special about being surrounded by all these wonderful illustrations. They'll see things they've grown up with, no matter what age you are. If you read Mike Mulligan and his steam shovel as a kid, you can come in and see some original Mike Mulligan and his steam shovel work. If you grew up with Ezra Jack Keats's work, you can see some original Keats. You can see Sendak. You can see, as I said, some of the best-known characters. And also you will see some absolutely amazing artwork. You'll, come, bring your family, bring your kids. Do not feel, one of the things I always wanted when I started the gallery, I wanted it to be family friendly and friendly to everyone. I did not grow up with money going to fancy museums and things. And when I first started going into galleries, I was intimidated. And I was determined that people who walk into our Michelson Galleries will feel relaxed, at home. There's no question you can ask that you will be mocked for. We want to know what you think. My staff will welcome you. It's a friendly place. Sit down, read a book, look around, spend as much time as you want, walk through downtown Northampton. We want it to be a fun experience, and we want you to leave with a smile on your face.
All right. And if you have anything else that you think that you'd like us to touch on that I didn't ask about, is there anything that you think that is important that we know or that you'd like to mention?
I think you were pretty good covering things. Again, go to our website, rmichelson.com. That's rmichelson.com. And look around, email if you have a question, come join us. And I look forward to meeting you. If you didn't know about the gallery and you just learned it right now on Chris's show, let me know that too. And you know that, Chris, do you know that it's missing one Z, but one of the best repositories of children's art in the country is the Maza Museum
Oh,
in
no kidding.
Ohio. Mazza, they spell it. But it's an amazing collection of children's book illustration. So now I'm pleased to see there are places all over the country that are celebrating children's books, but I think we still have the best collection. Come and visit us, and also the holidays are coming up. Original children's book artwork makes great gifts. I have to say, I'm thrilled how many people will buy an original piece of artwork for their child from their favorite book. And then I've been around long enough to see those children bring, of course, when they first get a piece of artwork, if they're 5 or 6, they prefer a cupcake. But then you see that they get excited about it. And I've seen some of those kids who then, when they go off to college, the one thing they bring with them is their original piece of artwork to show their roommates. And then when they get married, it's got a place of honor in their home. And then they're buying for their kids. And, we've been there, 46 years in Northampton. And so I've seen generations. I've seen grandchildren grow up whose parents got artwork from their parents. So it's still, if you're a collector, it's still often an easy way into the market, in that prices are not what they were when I started, but they're certainly less than a lot of so-called fine art. We've got something for everyone, and I think they make great gifts. But come in and just look anyways. We're just happy. That's to introduce you to some of the artists, and you'll see some of your favorite artwork.
All right. Well, hey, thank you very much for taking the time with me and being flexible. I know that we had to massage a few things to get this to work, but I appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to the show.
Thank you. You're going to come join us?
I think I'd love to. I'd have to check my schedule. If not the actual celebration, the event, I'm sure we'll pop in at some time. I actually have a 7-year-old daughter, so I think that she'd really enjoy checking it out as well.
Right. November 2nd from 4 to 6 is the opening. That's Sunday, November 2nd, 4 to 6, and you'll meet everybody, but come anytime.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Bye-bye now.
Well, thank you for joining us for this episode, and thank you to Rich for really enlightening me on a lot of the history that is this very interesting and niche genre of fine art. I mean, I guess I've never really considered it fine art, but when you look at it and what's involved with it, why not? Right? So if you are in the area, of course, that celebration, there's going to be the reception that's going to be happening the beginning of November, but that gallery is going to be having those things on display through January. So if you live in the area in Western Massachusetts, or if you're going to be visiting the area, be sure to check it out. And I'll have some of the information on where you can find the gallery, etc., in the show notes. So be sure to check those out. While you're at it and checking things out, be sure to check out the Maza's Musings podcast on Facebook, or you can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter at Maza's Musings Pod. You can also find us on Blue Sky. We've got a TikTok at Maza's Musings Podcast, and we have a YouTube page. So be sure to like or subscribe on all of our various social media so that you can stay up to date with what's happening with us. Another way to stay up to date, check out mazasmusings.wordpress.com, because I'll have all of the past episodes up there. There's more information about me and the podcast. Right now, there's information on how you can get involved with the upcoming 100th episode celebration. And basically, we're just looking for people, whether you are a former guest, a listener, support some other way, just send us a message. It can be a written message via email. You can also send us a video or an audio message. However you'd like to. You can send well wishes or whatever it is that you'd like to say. And we'll be incorporating all of that into that 100th episode. Thank you to those of you who have already sent in your messages. And I'm looking forward to getting some more from those of you who are also listeners or former guests. And while you are there at mazasmusings.wordpress.com, be sure to sign up for our newsletter, where you'll get more information about, episodes that we've got coming up, some things you might have missed. And we also make sure that you are up to date on things like sweepstakes and contests or other cool things that we've seen that have come up. And that will come in your inbox once a week when you just click the link and enter your email address. And while you're there, if you're looking to up your support just a little bit more, you can buy us a blue milk. And buying us a blue milk is just a small, easy way to help us with some of the small monetary costs that go into putting this whole thing together. Hey, and whether you are a first-time listener, by the way, welcome if you are, or if you've been listening since the beginning, and whether you're just connecting with us on social media or buying us a blue milk, all of the support, we love it. And one other way you can support us is making sure that other people know. And you can do that word of mouth, obviously the best way, but you can also leave a rating or review on your favorite podcatcher, which will help us in those algorithms that boost us up and make us more visible to more people. So, with all of that said, once again, thank you for all your support. Thanks for listening. And as always, have a great weekend and a great week. For the Maza's Musings podcast is brought to you by Hi Dad Soup. Check them out at Mickey and Minutes on Instagram.